Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we're going to open the public hearing. There are quite a few people to speak, so we're going to be pretty precise with our timing here, 2 minutes per speaker. And I think we have about 15, 16 people. So you'll have, if anyone has not signed up to speak, may I see your hand? I just want you to know that you'll be able to, but you'll be at the end of the line. Even more reason to be precise, 2 minutes. And especially if you hear someone has already voiced your opinion on a point, then you can simply say, I support that. You don't need to repeat the whole thing and then go on to whatever else you're going to say. Right, so I'm going to go down the list. All right. Okay, I'm going to start with the most difficult one to read. I think it's Doreen. And I'll let you finish up for me, Doreen. Please come to the microphone. You have to come to the microphone, Doreen. Sorry about that. And please state your name and address.
I live at 2044
I'm
Cedar
sorry,
Lake
this one.
Parkway.
Sorry, Doreen. Just repeat that,
Doreen
please.
Scriven. I live at 2044 Cedar Lake Parkway. I just want to make one correction. The Minneapolis Audubon Society, of which I am vice president, had no part of this task force.
Thank you. And then we'll go to Dawn Isaacson and Christine Coughlin. Can you come right behind Dawn, please, and be ready to speak.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Dawn Isaacson. I am here on behalf of the Minnesota Spay-Neuter Assistance Program. I am on the board of directors, I am the secretary, and I am the chair of the Free Roaming Cat and Audit Committees. I'm here today to speak on behalf of MinSnap and in support of the proposed Minneapolis TNR ordinance. MinSnap is a Minnesota nonprofit organization, and our mission is to help end the suffering of companion animals and the death of companion animals in Minnesota due to pet overpopulation by providing high-quality, affordable, and accessible spay and neuter services to those in need. MinSnap is also actively involved in reducing feral cat populations in Minneapolis and throughout the state of Minnesota by providing these same services to individuals and organizations that are also seeking to reduce feral cat populations. Much of the opposition that we've heard to this ordinance is emotionally charged, and these are pleas seeking opposition from the council in that they are statements that are not supported by scientific studies, data, and sources. There has been no proposed alternative plan that will address feral cat populations, particularly in a humane method that will not increase costs to the cities. And they have also frequently cited a Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute study related to threats to birds, which has been refuted by a statistical analysis of the study. Those documents have all been put into a packet and have been put into the council's boxes for your review. MinSnap supports the proposed TNR ordinances because scientific studies prove that TNR is the most effective method to reduce the feral cat populations as opposed to trapping and euthanizing these cats. Feral cats already have difficult lives. However, proven TNR protocols, which are supported by the proposed ordinance, allow the cats better lives and reduce negative impacts on the community as a whole. TNR is beneficial for a number of reasons, and scientific studies support the effectiveness, such as a few examples that I'm going to provide to you. One study published in the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association of a TNR program in Florida that occurred over 11 years showed that the population...
You're going to have to wrap up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a number of studies that show that the colonies reduce over time, the nuisance behavior is reduced, and these are positive things for the community, and with the ordinance that's been proposed, it's not going to cost the city additional funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christine Coughlin.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Coughlin, and I'm with Minnesota Voters for Animal Protection.
On behalf of our over 5,000 members and supporters, I wish to express our support for Councilmember Gordon's trap neuter return proposal. What is particularly strong about Councilmember Gordon's proposal is that it is pragmatic and it offers a practical solution. It is economical and it is efficient. It is practical because it is pragmatic because it works with existing reality. Last year, according to data obtained by Minnesota Spay-Neuter Assistance Program, the City of Minneapolis housed and euthanized 300 feral cats at a total cost of $48,000. Looking at data from the last 5 years, 1,208 feral cats were euthanized for a total cost to the City of Minneapolis of $193,280. The reality is we have feral cats in Minneapolis, and catching them and euthanizing them creates an inhumane and expensive, non-functioning cycle. A second reality is we have people and organizations in our city that are willing to work cooperatively with animal care and control and within a reasonable framework that includes accountability measures. The third reality is that existing city policy is ambiguous at best. The proposed policy offers clear outlines for what are unacceptable and acceptable practices, affording a reasonable understanding not only for city staff who have to enforce the ordinance, but for cat caretakers as well. It also offers a clear framework for resolving problematic situations if they arise. Although there are fine organizations and individuals that are concerned about the impact the new proposal may have on birds and wildlife, the reality is that if the city does not adopt this proposal, we maintain the status quo cycle of capturing, euthanizing, and spending. Managing feral cats is not as simple as forbidding ground feeding and pet abandonment. Because the TNR proposal works pragmatically with existing reality, because it offers a practical and humane solution, because it will save the City of Minneapolis thousands of dollars per year, and because it integrates in an orderly way with existing caretakers and provides a clear framework for accountability, we support this proposed ordinance, and we hope that you will as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Colin. Coughlin. Sorry about that. Christine Henricks, and followed by Susan Turtell and Kelly Leaf. You might want to stand in that order.
My name is Christine Heinrich, and I'm here today on behalf of Pet Project Rescue, a nonprofit animal rescue based in the city of Minneapolis. Last year, Pet Project Rescue began a trap-neuter return program aimed at humanely addressing the growing number of feral and free-roaming cats in our community. Over the last 2 years, and at the request of citizens and businesses in the city of Minneapolis, we've been able to sterilize over 250 feral and free-roaming cats. TNR programs are an effective and humane alternative to traditional animal control methods, and we support the proposed ordinance in part because it addresses potential issues associated with the TNR program and ensures effectiveness in population management and reduction. Importantly, our goals are one and the same, and that is to reduce the population of feral and free-roaming cats in this city. The primary benefit of the proposed ordinance is the partnerships between colony caretakers and the nonprofit organizations such as, hopefully, Pet Project Rescue. Currently, people who are caring for cats in the city are uninformed and likely, or the colonies are unmanaged and the people are uninformed about proper colony care. The partnership would ensure that caretakers are educated about proper feeding so as not to encourage additional cats in a colony and pests. The partnership and reporting requirements would allow us to tell if people are illegally dumping their house pets into these colonies. And the unmanaged colonies grow at a rapid rate because of kittens being born each year. And the partnership between nonprofit organizations and these colony caretakers allows them a resource to go to help them place those kittens and adoptable cats in homes. But importantly, we need to recognize that our community will continue to provide assistance to feral and free-roaming cats with or without the TNR ordinance. Without education, partnerships, and oversight provided by this ordinance, the population of feral and free-roaming cats will continue to increase, and taxpayer dollars will be needlessly spent on housing and killing cats. This is a solution, and Pet Project Rescue urges you to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this Ms. Turtell? Welcome. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Susan Turtell. I'm a resident of the 2nd Ward, and I'm here to voice my support for the proposed TNR ordinance.
Ms. Turtell, just state your address for the record.
2841 40th Avenue South.
Thank you.
I've been a bird watcher since I was 8 years old. I've been a member of the Audubon Society for over 30 years, and I served on the board of the Audubon chapter of Minneapolis for 3 years. I'm in the Minnesota Master Naturalist Program, and I also served on the TNR task force earlier this year. I'm a cat owner, and excuse me, I feel that responsible cat ownership means that cats are kept indoors, both for their own health and safety, and so that they are not a neighborhood nuisance. In addition, for the past 2.5 years, I have been trapping feral cats and taking them to be sterilized and vaccinated. All but one of the cats in the 2 feral cat colonies in my neighborhood have been taken to MinSNAP for surgery and vaccination. The change in the cats is really remarkable. They become less aggressive and roam less. They get to know their caretakers and become friendlier, meaning that eventually they might be able to be adopted. In the 2 colonies in which I am active, 9 kittens have also been trapped. They've been young enough that it was possible to tame them and have them adopted, rather than living in the colony and expanding its size. Overall, I have taken 33 feral cats to be spayed or neutered. This is 33 cats who will live healthier lives, will not spread disease, and will not reproduce to add to the size of the colonies. So, in summary, I'm in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turtell. Kelly Leaf and Susan Anderson, would you come behind her?
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I'm here today representing Feline Rescue, where I'm the Community Outreach Director. Several of you may have seen me this summer and at different events all over the city. My role within Feline Rescue is to educate the public about responsible pet ownership, to talk about the ethics of being part of a no-kill rescue. What we do is we talk to owners of cats and people who are potentially owning cats about how important it is to keep their cat inside. My neighbors have a cat named Bailey, and Bailey routinely roams in my backyard and attacks the birds that are congregating in my bird feeder. That's so annoying. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about people who don't know enough to leave their cats inside. And I'm working on that issue every day as an outreach director for Feline Rescue. We're doing our part to make sure that people who have cats in their homes are responsible pet owners. What we're talking about here are feral cats. We're talking about the cats that you don't see. They lead short and sick and sad lives. They need help from people in the community or they're not going to survive. And while we're talking about trap, neuter, and release and vaccinating cats, we're not talking about the responsibility of people keeping their cats inside. Those are 2 separate issues that I think that a lot of times the emotion that comes around, it becomes a zero-sum power game when we're talking about wildlife or cats. When we're talking about trap, neuter, release, we're talking about the ability to assess the health of a colony. We're talking about the ability for people to be upfront about where the cats are so that they can be located and they can be taken care of. My father lives in Oklahoma City, and he started a feeding program for some feral cats. And what followed was a cat colony that was easier to manage, but more importantly, easier to locate. Those cats could be trapped, neutered, and released, and the colony has in fact reduced over time. So I would just like to add my support for this bill and to urge you to approve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now it's going to be Susan Anderson. And I tell you what, why don't you at the beginning just say whether you're supporting the ordinance or opposing it? That way we have a really good, clear.
I'm Susan Anderson. I'm a member of the Minneapolis Audubon chapter, but I'm really here as just a neighborhood observer. I live at 135 Orland Avenue. I'm in the 2nd Ward. I'm very, very, very happy to hear that everybody's very concerned about cats indoors. First of all, I think that's incredibly important. I'm very tired of chasing neighborhood cats and feral cats off my deck where they're munching on migrating warblers. It's not a nice thing to see. But my further concern was recently I was birding in Miami, and they have large populations of feral cats that are well fed. And other birders I talked to from the area were very concerned about their impact on the bird population in Miami. So that's my only information, but I think whatever's going on in Miami should be thoroughly investigated before we look at this program, because those colonies are huge, as I said, well-fed, well provided for, but making a big impact on birds. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ron Person is going to be followed by Jerry Bales. You come behind Mr. Person. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Ron Person. I live at 11 Orleans in Inver Grove Heights. I'm a Minneapolis kid, but I married a girl from St. Paul, so I've gone over to the dark side. 10 years ago, we moved into Skyline Village and discovered the cat population was a problem right away. I started rescuing animals as quickly as I could, finding homes for them outside of the park. The more cats I moved out of the park, the more cats showed up. As they showed up, females came, babies came. Over 8 years, I spent over $36,000. I rescued 39 cats. I had to put down about 12 of them. They were just damaged beyond repair, and I just couldn't afford thousands of dollars in medical bills. I got help from Feline Rescue, Animal Ark, and other organizations as much as I could, but we did spend a lot of our own money. 2 years ago, MinSnap came in, and we trapped and neutered 104 animals. We released them back into the environment. Now, I've gone from having 15 cats with 6 litters of babies. I'm down to 4 animals out there. I can pet them, except for one. I feed them. I'm concerned about the birds and squirrels too. That's why I keep them well fed. But the population has just diminished dramatically. I mean, it is an absolute miracle what happened in the 2 years since we trapped and neutered. One day, 3 hours, we trapped. The next day, 14 hours of neutering. Dr. Kim was on her feet the whole time, and the transformation is just amazing. This is a small ecosystem, about 400 homes on a 7-acre site, and we did it in one day. Now, if this organization can be funded more than just the volunteers and have more volunteers and expand this operation throughout the Twin Cities, we can handle this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Person. Yes, sir. Mr. Bales. And behind you is Jenny Edgerton and Kelly Leaf.
Hi, my name is Gerald Balls, and I'm the president of the Audubon chapter of Minneapolis. And first, I'd like to compliment Congressman Gordon for addressing this very, very difficult problem. I'm sure all of you know about the devastation that cats bring on birds. We would love to see a solution in this. In our analysis of the proposed ordinance, we have raised over 30 questions. We would like to address just 3 of these. The definition of nuisance does not address the fact that millions of birds are killed by cats, and that bird watching and feeding is a recreation enjoyed by many Minneapolis residents. Many have adapted landscape practices that benefit birds. There is nothing more disheartening than seeing a cat under your feeder or hiding in your prairie grass. Doesn't this constitute a nuisance? The proposed ordinance requires a caretaker to educate neighbors. If these colonies will affect a 4-block area, feral cats will undoubtedly be present on the neighbor's property, and if that neighbor watches birds as a form of recreation, wouldn't this degrade their enjoyment of their property? Shouldn't neighbors have a little more influence than to be educated? A feral cat colony consists of feral and any other feral cats that congregate within the colony, and therefore all cats are considered to be part of the colony. Does this then imply that the non-feral cats in the colony will be subject to all the requirements that the feral cats are subject to? If licensed, is the owner required to remove the cat from the colony? If unlicensed, does it need to be neutered, vaccinated, etc.? Finally, I'd like to comment on those other non-feral cats or owned cats that are allowed outside their residence. It has been mentioned to me that there have been more of these than there are feral cats. If this is true, then a more aggressive enforcement of laws needs to be undertaken. If this ordinance is passed, these cats will put a huge burden on the caretakers. The Audubon chapter of Minneapolis hopes that all owned cats are kept indoors for their health and safety, and if the owner wishes to allow them outside, put them on a leash. These are just a couple of the many unanswered questions. Therefore, we urge the committee to send this ordinance back to be studied more thoroughly by knowledgeable stakeholders that a workable solution can be made available to Minneapolis and Minnesota.
Thank you, sir. And now, Jenny Edgerton, followed by Kelly Leaf, and
Hi,
Suzanne, I'm sorry, Ms. Edgerton, followed by Kelly Leaf and Jason, I think, and Joan Barrett.
Greetings, council members. Most of us agree that community cats are a problem.
State your name and address for the
I'm
record.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm a little nervous. My name is Jenny Edgerton. I'm a member of Minneapolis Citizens for Animal Care, and I have a PhD in ecology from the University of Minnesota. Most of us agree that community cats are a problem. The question is, how do we manage them? And since Minneapolis is an urban area, the question in our city is, how do we manage urban feral cats? This ordinance does not mean the city will do TNVR or TNR. It allows, under restrictive conditions, this to be practiced. 3 management options for feral cats are trap, neuter, return, do nothing and hope, and trap and kill. On 48 islands with no owned cats, trap and kill has been effective, but it took up to 15 years. In my search, I could find no evidence that trap and kill has ever been effective in free-ranging cats in any continental area. Trap and kill is also expected to be expensive and repetitive, according to the AVMA, California Animal Sheltering White Paper, and a paper in Wildlife Research. Also, 2011 Reuters survey said 70% of people surveyed were against the trap and kill model. It's currently not practiced on a significant scale in Minneapolis. Do nothing and hope has the obvious result. Trap, neuter, return has been successful, even reducing some colonies to 0. Instances in which TNR have failed are those in which immigration of fertile non-colony cats increase colony size. Both TNR opponents and proponents agree that owner education and spay and neuter of owned cats are important for the success of trap, neuter, return, and cat management in general. Trap and adoption of kittens from feral colonies, as in this ordinance, can also help to reduce colony size more quickly even than some of the studied ones.
Time to wrap up, I'm afraid.
Some research also tells us that urban cat colonies, neutering male cats in particular reduces their home range size, which may help keep cats out of parks, and urban cats tend to stay near buildings, again, tending to keep cats out of parks. We support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kelly Leaf.
Sorry, I already spoke.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Joan Barrett. Sorry. Followed by Chris Smith and Wynn Aker.
Good afternoon. I'm Joan Barrett. I'm from 4609 First Avenue in Minneapolis. I'm a 26-year resident of Minneapolis and a 20-year resident of Southwest Minneapolis. I am here in support of the ordinance, and I also serve on the board of Feline Rescue. I do have some concerns about the ordinance, and I am looking for additional clarification potentially as this ordinance moves forward. I understand that there was care taken to keep the sponsor in between the caretaker and animal control. There is a provision in the ordinance, though, that requires that the caretaker pick up the cat from animal control if the colony cat ends up at animal control. I would hope that the caretaker or a representative from the sponsor is allowed to pick up the cat from animal control. Okay. I also have concerns over the limits of the feeding times, 3 hours. I don't see how that could be enforced easily or fairly for caretakers. I worry that there may be someone in the neighborhood who's watching and looking to see if it's 3 hours and 1 minute and then calling to complain. I also would like to hear some clarification on the education requirements and the training requirements for both the sponsor and the caretaker. Education in a 4-block area, in a highly dense area of the city, does that mean that the caretaker needs to go door to door and talk to every resident and educate them? Or what is sufficient to cover the requirement for education? But in general, I am in support of the ordinance, and I'm very glad to hear that Minneapolis is moving forward with this ordinance, or considering moving forward with this ordinance.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Chris Smith, followed by Win Aker and Annette and Doug. Annette and Doug, you know who you are.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Christopher Smith. I am the president of the Minnesota Herpetological Society. That's HERPETOLOGY. I'm here to voice concern and to encourage you to oppose this measure. Many of you have already received my email with my comments in writing. I really appreciate the feedback I've gotten so far. For those of you that may not have done so, I encourage you to look at that. I just want to touch on 3 points really quick. The first being that Minnesota law under MS 84D.06 subdivision 1 prohibits the release of non-native animals into the state of Minnesota. Cats are non-native. Cats also meet the state's definition of an invasive species, that is MS 84D.01. Number 2, there's no doubt that TNR advocates and opponents are very passionate people. Regardless of how effective some of these measures are, or how many billions of birds or small mammals or amphibians or reptiles are killed by these things, many people fail, or these activities that have been proposed are easy to rationalize, but many people fail to understand the hardships that free roaming cats have. It's not, TNR is not humane for the cat. It might make the individual feel better about what he or she is doing, but it's not humane. Cold and snowy winters are very harsh in Minnesota. Predation by urban wildlife, especially coyotes, is an increasing threat. Road mortality, poisons, lawn chemicals, diseases and parasites beyond rabies, and then cruelty by non-participant neighbors is also a factor, and so it's not humane. And then just lastly, a quick comment. TNR advocates fail to comprehend the social implications of these actions. It is well documented in the literature that free roaming and domestic cats kill a lot of wildlife, and these wildlife are considered public goods. And it's interesting that some of the groups that are for this...
Time to wrap up, sir.
Are they going to compensate the loss to the public of this wildlife in addition to paying for all these other activities? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Win Aker, followed by Annette.
Hello, my name's Win Aker, 307 Bush Terrace, and I want to thank the council for entertaining this possible amendment. I'm a multi-cat owner. I'm legal. I got a multi-cat permit, and I just want to say that I did get a stray cat. She was pregnant going into November, and she had 5 kittens, and I found a home for 2 of them. Didn't go to the pound, and I had the consent of my neighbors to keep 4 cats, and I'm blessed that they turned out to be great pets. I am a cat lover, unlike the last person who spoke, and I really think it's a sense of community for people to get involved outside of a political vendetta or whatever you want to say, and in a positive way to help finance this situation, which is it's become a problem, I understand, and hopefully the birders of the nation will be satisfied if this does pass and it has positive consequences. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Annette and Doug Edge, I think.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Annette Edge and my husband Doug. We live at 2688 Delaware Avenue North in North St. Paul, and we were asked to speak today because we have our own personal feral cat colony and experience with TNR working with MinSnap. We are caretakers of a small colony of feral cats in our neighborhood. It started with one mother cat, a litter of 3, and then a litter of 4. While our first instinct was to feed and provide water and shelter, we soon realized something had to be done or we would be overrun with cats. While at the Minnesota State Fair, at the Humane Society booth, we found that there are a number of animal groups out there that promote TNR and the benefits of it, MinSnap and Animal Arc, to name 2. And Animal Arc and MinSnap came to our rescue when we made headlines a few years ago in our city for following the TNR program with wildcats in our neighborhood. We received 2 tickets, pets running at large and non-licensing of pets. Feral cats are not pets, they're wild cats. Because the city told us to stop what we were doing, the colony that was once 5 has now grown to +9, so making it a total of 14. That colony has maintained at 14 right now. When feral cats are stressed, their instinct is to produce larger litters for their survival. Our colony is 75% female, so you can see how exponentially the numbers would increase in a hurry. TNR stops the reproductive process and promotes a healthy existence for cats and those around them because they also receive shots and prevent disease. We have noticed a change in behavior of the cats once they have been spayed and neutered. They seem to adapt more readily to their surroundings, knowing that they have a safe environment to rest with a stable and consistent food supply and shelter. It cuts down on the amount of roaming and scavenging for food that they once had to do to survive. We are fortunate to live in a neighborhood where there are others who feed cats or who offer us food to provide for the cats in our colony. Most of our neighbors understand the problem and support what we are trying to accomplish through TNR. However, we did have a couple neighbors who were not happy with the cats, but after hearing the benefits of TNR and seeing that our colony has maintained at 14, no new roamers, they're happy and believe that what we're doing is a good thing. The feral cat population is estimated at over 60 million nationwide. Feral cats are here, and that's a fact. They are going to stay unless we band together and use common sense approach to control the population. That common sense approach is TNR, trap, neuter, return. If 1 or 2 households per neighborhood help TNR, the feral cat population will stop growing. They will die off naturally with less disease and less stress. It's not a quick fix, but it's better than doing nothing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Edge, 2688 Delaware Avenue, North St. Paul. I obviously am for this program, and I'd like to comment on a few things, and that is, if you notice, the Audubon Society, all these groups, when I went through my case with the city, all opposed me, and I asked them one simple question: what is your answer? TNR is a great solution. It will work, but it's not the best. It's the best we have. If we could take all these animals, all us animal groups here, collect them up, and put them indoors, we would. That's clearly not going to work. There's millions of them. So this is the best we can do. It gives them a better life, not a great life, but a better life. You're all welcome to come to my house. You can see the life they get. The gentleman spoke back here about how terrible it is for them, and I'm not going to argue with them. Many of them it is. But again, it's a better life. It's a better situation. Until you have another answer for that, which the Audubon Society and none of them will ever give you. They all want to study and do more studies. In the meantime, more kittens are being born, more are being put down. Your animal control, they have to put these animals down. They don't want to do that. It's hard on them. They understand the problem. Again, this is a good solution to a very, very bad problem. And I would also admit that some of the people Audubon Society brought up was you really need more enforcement in some of the peripheral laws around this. The big thing is when people foreclose and they lose their homes, they've been dumping these animals. We really need to go after those people that are irresponsible. And I would say when you pass this bill to please look into those other laws that surround it and go after those people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we have 2 more people who have signed up. If you are at 1931 Johnson Street, Northeast, you can come up and come forward. Yep. Take your time. Okay, I'll tell you what, while you come, we'll ask Matthew Anderson to come, and because you're going to have to come behind. Can you make it through there?
You want me to allow her first?
Yeah, if she can make it, yeah. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead, Matthew? Well,
You want to?
So this is, for the record then, since I did not get your name, and thanks for taking the extra effort to come down today.
Yes, thank you, sir. Hello, my name is Ann Thurkelson, and I reside at 1931 Johnson Street in Minneapolis. Thank you for permitting me to address you today. I am speaking in opposition to this ordinance, asking you to not pass it. I don't represent any organization for or against cats. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that this ordinance is fair to cats, and I'd like to tell you why. I was a mother to Pumpkin, a world champion, orange and white, abandoned and on her way to being feral kitten from 1985 to 2003. That's 18 years. I wish I'd brought a picture, but I probably have about a few albums of her, so if you ever want to come over, you're welcome. As soon as we got her, she became an indoor cat. She was collared, spayed, licensed, every year shots. She had a vet. She was bathed, unfortunately, because I'm allergic to cats. But 6 years ago, when we moved from South Minneapolis to Northeast, we had a variety of birds in our backyard, including a bunch of cardinals, blue jays, birds I'd never seen in my life before. And we had nests built next to our house every year. The last 4 years, because of cats in our yard, we don't have a fenced-in yard, and they could probably jump it anyway. We haven't had any of those birds, none of them. And 4 years ago, Mother Bunny was having her babies under our ramp, and the last 2 years not, because she was killed by a cat. A neighbor released his cat one time, couple times. Nice neighbor, but I told him, you got to get that cat out, because he sat on our car and refused to get off when we had to get out of town. 2 years ago, I heard a meow, bedroom window. I went outside to talk to the cat. I know it was wild. I wasn't going to approach it. The thing went ballistic on me. It slashed a 10-inch scar in my leg, which still exists, and I was infected for 2 months. I love cats. I want to get another.
Need to wrap up, Miss.
Thurkelson. I want to get another cat. However, I think that the solution for this, the best solution for this, and I hate to say it, is that you euthanize a cat that you catch that is not tagged or has a chip in it or whatever. I'm sorry to say that, but, you know, these cats are wonderful. I love cats. But when they're going to the park and defecating in the sandbox where our children play, you know, there's got to be, you know, something.
Thank you.
Other than this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Matthew Anderson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Samuels. My name is Matthew Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Audubon, Minnesota. I live at 1140 Fairmont in St. Paul, I guess the dark side or the other side of the river. Somebody referred to it earlier. I want to start off first by thanking Councilmember Gordon for initiating this public dialogue around an important issue. I think what we've heard from all the people today, even my colleagues, and I would dare to hope to be able to say some of my friends within the TNR community, we've heard a very civil dialogue around an important issue. I want to get to a couple of specific issues quickly. We provided a packet of information to all of you, including our own comments. I draw your attention specifically to the map that we generated showing where colonies would be allowed and where they would not be allowed based on the proposed ordinance language and the proposed ordinance. This is not just about TNR. This is about colony feeding, trapping, neutering, releasing, or returning, but then also vaccination. And to just pull your attention to a few other specific issues, where in the report from Animal Control, it talks about wanting to reduce the number of feral cats. Actually, within the ordinance as it's drafted right now, it talks about stabilizing the cat population. Clearly, as you've heard from other folks within my specific wing of the animal community, we are concerned about birds, and merely stabilizing the population of feral cats in Minneapolis, while in some ways an overall good, is not a good thing for birds. And what the council has before it right now is, as Doug Edge and others have pointed out, one potential option, one potential solution that fundamentally is highlighting the rights or choosing the rights and the viability of a single species, and granted potentially hundreds of thousands of individuals of that species within Minneapolis, over the rights of community members. In the ordinance, it talks about taking away some of those rights from community members to be able to not remove feral cats from their own property if they're found there. I think we're talking about the rights, the health rights. While this ordinance is supposed to address health, there were no representatives from the public health community on this task force. A recent report by the Center for Disease Control that just came out in August of this year looks at the impact of cat populations on rabies. Cats are the #1 transmitter of rabies, domestic animal carrier of rabies by a margin of 3-1 over dogs. I would encourage you to take a look at that report. But then also, we're talking about, as I mentioned, prioritizing one single species over multiple species of birds, mammals, other animals, and hundreds of thousands of individuals within those species. So I don't deny my colleagues in the TNR community that there are issues about being humane and treating animals kindly, but they tend to forget the dozens of other species and the hundreds of thousands of individuals that this one species kills and consumes every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Anyone hasn't spoken yet? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. You can come behind and wait in line.
Good afternoon. My name is Tricia Markle. I live on the 3100 block of DuPont Avenue South in South Minneapolis. And I am, I should state, a cat lover, but I am in potential opposition to this ordinance, and that reason is for a human health concern that I haven't heard addressed yet today, and that has to do with the disease toxoplasmosis. So for those who aren't familiar with it, cats are the primary carrier of this disease in North America. It's estimated that around 40% have been infected with it in their lifetime, and this is much higher in feral cats because they get the disease by consuming rodents. For human health, for those who have compromised immune systems or for those who are pregnant, it has serious concerns. It can lead to pregnancy loss, fatality in humans, or even severe problems for babies once they're born. And I'm concerned that with these feral cat colonies, I don't know, I see how they're addressing problems of rabies, but how are they actually going to control toxoplasmosis? It seems like it's going to be a breeding ground for this because they can spread it amongst themselves. And as an avid gardener, I take precautions in my yard, but it's very frustrating to go out and to take, be washing and using gloves, but at any time knowing that I'm putting myself at risk or my baby at risk by having these cats come and defecate in my yard. And so I'm just hoping that that will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Annette Price, and I live at 1817 Ford Parkway in St. Paul. I first wanted to point out that one of my colleagues over there just wanted to remind everyone that the way toxoplasmosis is usually spread is through eating undercooked meat, not through cats. But that's not why I came up to speak. I came up to speak because, to me, all these problems that are being raised about toxoplasmosis and the birds and everything will be helped through TNR, because TNR will reduce the feral cat populations. That is the idea behind it. Right now, we're rounding up and killing, and then new cats move in, and we just keep doing the same, and the populations don't change. TNR reduces populations over time. There are many examples of this. Google's Stanford cats for a great example. They started out with, I think, a couple hundred. They wound up with a very manageable, small population that they still have today, managed through TNR. This has been repeated all over the country. So I just wanted to point that out, all the concerns I keep hearing. I'm like, this is the answer. The people bringing up the concerns don't have any answers. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Anyone else? Yes. Okay, anyone else after that?
Hello, my name is Peggy Augustine. I live at 4049 Heritage Lane Southeast in Prior Lake, Minnesota. I'm with the organization MinSnap. I'm also the former TNR coordinator for Animal Arc. So I do have some experience in this. And I just want to emphasize one point very briefly that I'm not sure has been made clear, and that is, if we were to kill all the cats in Minneapolis, we would be the first people on the face of the earth to be able to do that, because it simply isn't possible. You can't get them all. They are everywhere. TNR is the only humane solution. It's not only humane, but it's the only solution to stop cats from coming in. It's something known as the vacuum effect. If you kill the cats, more cats will come in. So TNR is the answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Stephen Tolin, T-O-L-I-N, Northeast Minneapolis. First, I'd like to ask...
What's your address, please?
Excuse me?
Yeah, state your address for the record.
Okay. 330 Monroe Street, Northeast.
Thank you.
Minneapolis, 55413. I'd like to ask Mr. Niziolak, is that your... how much input...
I'll go ahead and address the chair. That's how it's done.
Okay,
So
into the design of the ordinance was a did ornithologist Mr. Zink have, as was reported into the paper, Councilman Samuels?
Yeah, you just testified. It's not a question-answer.
Pardon me?
It's not a question-answer format. You just
I just want to know
make your
if,
statements.
If more than people who espouse opinions that as I'm going to quote you here, quote this gentleman. Hang on.
You might want to forego the quote so you don't lose your time.
This is taken from this morning's paper, Mr. Samuels.
Yeah.
Robert Zink, ornithologist, indicated that the house cat, this is Felis domesticus, was an ecological pollution for the city and the country. And I'd like to know if there's any input from a man who makes a statement like that, whether, sure, he loves birds. Why happen to love cats? And I looked into the ordinance and reviewed it. I see there's some rabies shots required and other care when some of these feral cats are found outside the colony. I don't notice, though, something to protect the cats, which is way more significant in protecting cat populations from spreading disease, and that's a feline leukemia vaccination.
Okay,
and I would
want
suggest...
to wrap it up now.
Pardon me?
You need to wrap it up now, sir.
Okay. I would suggest, if you're going to adopt that ordinance, that you amend that to not only include a rabies shot, but also a feline leukemia shot for the protection of the cat in the colony.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we're to our last speaker. You too? Okay, she's next.
Thank you so much for entertaining this,
Welcome.
this issue. And my name is Julia Dolan. I live at 3717 Glendale Terrace in Minneapolis. And I just have two comments. One is that I read some of the, I was reading it, and it said that the problem with feral cats is due to domestic roaming, free roaming cats. Those domestic free roaming cats are a result of human beings not having responsibility. Therefore, the only humane way is TNR. And also, I don't believe that that having to live within 4 blocks of the colony is at all reasonable. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally.
My name is Jeanette Wiedemeyer Bauer. I work for Minneapolis Animal Care and Control. I'm not presenting for me, so one of the members of the task force has asked to play a video. She's in surgery right now, so I'm just going to start the video. If that's
Okay, thank you.
And one of those is rabies. When a feral cat is presented for sterilization, it's automatically vaccinated.
Is it okay if it's just audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very
Vaccinated against rabies. So that immediately eliminates the feral cat as a reservoir for spreading rabies to people. Some other diseases that are mentioned are toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasmosis is a disease that people usually contract from eating undercooked meat or handling contaminated or raw meat and not washing hands afterwards. It's also estimated that 1/3 of the U.S. population has already been exposed to toxoplasmosis, so the feral cat is not likely to spread it to a person. Typhus and cat scratch fever are diseases that come up. These diseases are spread by fleas. They're rare diseases, and a lot of circumstances have to happen before a person can get infected with those diseases. And I personally would be more afraid of the tiny deer tick causing disease than the feral cat. The feral cats are presented to us in a variety of conditions. The tomcats are usually jowly with multiple scars, broken teeth, abscesses, wounds, numerous parasites, sometimes broken bones. Females are often presented pregnant or lactating, which means they've got a litter somewhere that they're nursing. I would say the majority of the female cats that we get are pregnant or lactating. Trapping and killing feral cats has been a method that's been used over the decades with little to no success, and it's also currently a method being used. Minneapolis Animal Care and Control has spent around $200,000 the past 5 years trapping and killing cats, as other communities have. If that's an effective method, then why are we doing it year after year after year when scientific studies have shown that trap, neuter, return steadily decreases the feral cat population? Trapping and killing doesn't work in the long run because those feral cats are in an area because there's a food source and there's shelter. If we trap and kill and remove those cats, more cats are going to move in because it's a hospitable area. That's called the vacuum effect. It doesn't work because as soon as you remove the cats from the area, more cats are going to move in, and these cats are going to reproduce, versus having a stable colony that's sterilized and vaccinated against rabies. That colony maintains the territory and decreases in numbers over time. Number one, because they're not reproducing, and number two, because they're dying of natural causes. Other communities and cities in the United States have successful TNR programs with documented reductions in numbers of cats that are entering shelters, getting killed, and the number of feral cats getting killed in pounds. One doesn't have to be a cat lover to want a humane way to manage these feral cat populations. A study was conducted a few years ago that showed that 75% of people polled do not want the cats trapped and killed. While they're nuisances, they'd like to be able to manage the nuisance cats in a humane and effective way. And it's been shown time and time again that trap and kill doesn't work.
Okay, just about in time, although I was not able to discern whether or not the dog was in support of the ordinance. But that's all the time we have, and so I'm going to close the public hearing.